2026. My name is Ted Hulsey. I'm Chief Revenue Officer for SnapTech IT and your host for today's event. Thanks for joining in for the live session. This webinar will be recorded and circulated to all registrants, and you can always visit us on our YouTube channel to get all of our content on demand. Today's content is recruiting with AI, how to use AI to get better candidates. I'm joined today by SnapTech's head recruiter, Shelly Brown. Shelly, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you.
All right, great. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Really interested in today's discussion. Very exciting. Every day, Shelly is using AI to actually drive recruiting at SnapTech. So this is like a practitioner's, you've got a hands-on demo type webinar where we're going to really see, how we're leveraging these tools in our business to find candidates. And we have to recruit a lot of people. Finding IT talent is not easy. And one of the most important things we do with our clients is we have to have extremely talented people on our team because IT is complicated, it's hard, and it's a very competitive job market for talent. So Shelly's going to give you a day in the life of her struggles to keep the trains moving on time over here. But one of the things we want to do, sometimes we have clients on these webinars. You of course know us. Other times there's companies that are just getting to know us. So we'd like to spend 1 to 2 minutes just giving you a high-level overview of who we are. So SnapTech, we are a cybersecurity first IT service provider with operations in Atlanta, Georgia, Phoenix, Arizona, and the San Francisco Bay Area. When our clients come to us, they usually have technology challenges. And our philosophy is that technology should be solving problems in your business, not creating them. And some of the things new clients struggle with when they come to us is sometimes they're just disappointed in their current provider. Sometimes they're struggling with downtime or outages, or slow response times from their internal team or their external provider. Other times people are just losing sleep because they feel like maybe they're not doing everything they could be doing on the cybersecurity front. And what we try to do when we bring on a new client is we implement our proven process. And that means that every one of our clients has a IT plan, an IT budget, an IT roadmap. You understand where your dollars need to be invested to keep your technology in tip-top shape. And we implement all of our IT and cybersecurity best practices so your people can work securely wherever they are in the world. And then when things break, and things in technology, things always break. That's just the name of the game. I mean, it's the nature of the beast, really. We try to prevent it. But when things do break or when you need help, you can access our support team for fast and friendly IT support. And ultimately, the organizations we work with, we want them to the peace of mind that their cybersecurity, we're doing the absolute utmost to defend their organization. Our clients engage with us in 2 different ways. If you're a smaller company, say less than 75 employees, we usually deliver what's called fully managed IT, meaning we do everything for you, everything from IT procurement to help desk to cybersecurity monitoring, proactive maintenance on your environments, everything. And if you're a larger organization and you have an IT manager, an IT director, or maybe even a full team, those sorts of organizations are often struggling with just capacity. There's too many things on the back burner. Things aren't being done as well as they could. Maybe there's not as much cybersecurity investment as there could be. We work with larger companies and deliver what we call co-managed IT, where we put together a customized outsourcing plan for your organization and your internal IT team. And then clients, getting to know us. Hopefully you get to know us via events like this, like our webinar program. But a lot of clients will come to us, and as kind of a first date, if you will, they'll have us do an IT discovery and cybersecurity risk assessment on their environment to find out how well are they doing with their cybersecurity posture. And then in the past 2 years, a lot of conversations we start with organizations around AI, because a lot of our organizations are dabbling in AI, but they don't have a structured and successful approach to take AI to every level of their organization. And so we have our AI Jumpstart program, which is another way for companies to get started with engaging with us as a firm. So let's look at the agenda today. So I'm going to pull Shelly into the conversation here shortly, and she's going to talk about a lot of the recruiting challenges that organizations of all sizes face, but especially growing organizations. And then we're going to talk about how we're using Microsoft Copilot internally. That's kind of we have a lot of AI investments, but the one investment where it's almost every employee in the company is using is Copilot. And then that'll be a good intro to Shelly hopping into real life demos, showing you how she's using it day to day. And so that's kind of the roadmap for today. And then we'll wrap up with your. By the way, ask questions as we go along. Nathan's monitoring the Q&A log, and we'll try to address your questions on the fly here. But also we'll have, I think, probably some time at the end for kind of a formal Q&A. But don't sit on your questions. Go ahead and use the Q&A feature in GoToWebinar and ask us as we go along, because it's usually best to try to address those in real time. Okay, Shelly. So tell me about your struggles.
How much time do you have? No, yes. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I guess if anybody is doing recruiting, you know that it's a lot of challenges. We face a lot of challenges. So I would say that for us as an organization and a growing organization, like Ted mentioned, I think one of the biggest challenges is we have too many unqualified candidates who might apply for a role. At any given time, we are hiring for anywhere from 2 to 10 people. And that's how many, and I'm the sole recruiter. And so I may have 400 resumes a week to review for all these various positions that are coming in. And so a lot of volume of resumes, and a good portion of those, probably 75%, are actually not qualified for the roles that they actually apply for. So a lot of unqualified applicants. I would say a lot of times we can spend a significant amount of time, waste time engaging with the wrong candidates. Some people are really good about making their resumes look wonderful. They sound great on paper. They sound really experienced. They sound like they would be the ideal candidate for the role. And so we move them through the interview process. And then lo and behold, I get on a phone call and I realize that they probably have used AI to jazz up their resume a little bit, and it's not actually as accurate as it should be. I think one of the other challenges we face is that sometimes our interviews don't always produce, I guess, the best hire or the best candidate, simply because we could have done a better job with the questions that we ask. And I know that's something I'm constantly trying to improve on a daily basis, because I am doing all of these phone screenings. And so we want to make sure we're asking the right questions to further qualify the candidate, to make sure that they're the great fit for the role, but also a good fit for our company, and for our company culture and what we're looking to build here at SnapTag. And then I would say just there's always an administrative component. So that's probably one of the other challenges, is just the administrative burden and time spent in passing off a candidate to the next interviewer, or documenting what the results were of the interview. And so all of these things, I have been using AI to try to improve and address all of these problems that I know I face. And if you're doing some recruiting and hiring yourself, you probably are too.
Right on. And how long would you say you've kind of been leaning in on using AI as a tool?
So I would say that my journey with AI started with ChatGPT, probably personally. I did not use it for work. The first time I was introduced to AI and how it could impact actually work was just through Indeed. So a lot of these platforms, Indeed, LinkedIn, a lot of them are adding new AI features. That was my first exposure to even possibility considering using AI, when it just suggested a different job title and told me that, hey, this job title might produce more results. So that's what sparked the interest. And then I've probably been using it now for 3 months or so. And again, every day is using it in a new way. So, I've used it to rewrite job ads, and now I'm using it to do a lot of other things as well. That's making my life much, much simpler. So, yeah.
Awesome. And we as an organization, I mean, we use a ton of different tools, because we have to do a lot of R&D for our clients and to correctly advise them on what to select. We're also heavily invested in the Microsoft stack. I think probably 90% of our clients use Microsoft 365. And so we're always paying very close attention to how Microsoft is tackling this market. And Copilot for us is kind of a natural um, because of, for a number of different reasons, because we are already standardized in the Microsoft 365 platform. But just to kind of ground everybody, like Shelly mentioned, almost every business professional in America probably used AI for the first time using ChatGPT. ChatGPT adoption has been one of the technology adoption curves that's the most rapid in history of any kind of technology, right? So everybody's had a chance to play with it in that regard. But ultimately, the real question that comes up is like, well, how do I plug this into my business? How do I plug it into all of the apps that I'm already using? How do I plug it into my company data? We use this slide a lot. Some of my colleagues don't like it. I like it because I think it kind of explains how Copilot works. So one of the important things is that if you just look in the upper left corner, Microsoft's big bet, and I think it's paying off, is that AI doesn't want to be only this thing you do over in this browser that you then need to copy and paste back and forth. We like that experience because it's simple, but there's a lot of ways to use AI right inside the applications we already know and love. So things like Word and Outlook and PowerPoint and Excel. There's a lot of things you want to do to leverage AI right in the app. So that was kind of like Microsoft's first big bet. Their second big bet is that for this to be successful in the workplace, you've got to protect company data. You've got to help companies protect their own privacy and confidentiality of their client data, their customer data, and their intellectual property. And so what Microsoft does when you're running Copilot, and paying for the license version, it operates in the various apps you already are familiar with. And all of your data is protected. Your data is in email, it's in Teams messages, it's in meetings that have been recorded and transcribed, it's in OneDrive and SharePoint, it's in the other apps you're using on the Microsoft platform. And Microsoft does what they call ground that data. So all of that data does not get used to train the large language model. You're not like a guinea pig in a freemium type scenario. You are a paid subscriber, and so your data should be protected. So that's the other big element of what makes Copilot a great solution for most organizations. And then there's also just the wide open benefit is that Copilot itself uses ChatGPT as the actual LLM engine in the product. So you kind of get the best of all these worlds brought together in the Copilot platform. Is that you get the kind of the ease of use and simplicity of ChatGPT, but then you get this really deep integration with all of your apps, and you get the protection of your data. So that's kind of just a little bit of context on why we have a lot of conversations around Copilot and why Microsoft is one of the biggest players in the market. It's now demo time, I guess, and Shelly, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then you're going to take us through some real life use cases to show how this technology is being used.
That sounds great.
Okay,
Ted is only laughing because I told him that I was technically challenged earlier, so he's a little nervous as to exactly what's going to happen here with my screen. So we're going to see. Are we good, Ted?
Yeah, we can see your screen just fine.
Okay, perfect. Well, like Ted said, we're going to go through just some demos. I have created a few a few Copilot prompts that I'm going to put in that I've done just to save time that I've written, but a lot of this is going to be on the fly. So I wanted to, first we're going to go through 4 different areas. So first we're going to talk about how to improve an existing job ad. So let's say that you, I know when I started recruiting 4 years ago, we have a database of job ads, and those are refined from time to time. And so, but let's say you have an ad that's really not pulling great, or maybe you're getting a lot of unqualified candidates. So we're going to start with that first and go in and let's see. Okay, so and I'm struggling. Let me try this again. Copy. Okay, there we go. So we're just going to, what I've found is that the more specific you can be, the better results you will get in terms of the output of what you're going to get from Copilot. So we're going to ask it to analyze a job and make suggestions on how to improve. For this example, I'm just going to let it know that I'm getting a lot of unqualified candidates, and I'm also, for some reason, getting a lot of out-of-state applicants for this role, even though it clearly says in the ad that it is in person. So I'm going to add this. I'm going to add the job ad in that we are using. And does that, okay, that's not working that way. I'm just going to copy and paste this ad to make this go quick, just in case. So I have just pasted in our full ad, and we're going to see what type of results we get. I think the very first time I analyzed an ad for performance, the feedback was, it was interesting. It said, no wonder you're, it basically said, no wonder you're getting so many unqualified candidates. So it was a humbling experience for sure. But this kind of gives you an idea of, you know, what you're getting wrong. So when you're asking it to analyze an ad, it's going to tell you it's too inspirational, it's vague, it's not using the correct words, too soft for the in-person requirements. And I get that with a lot of our ads. It'll say you should be a lot more detailed. Ted, do you have something to add?
Okay. No, I'm just listening. Yep.
And then the key areas, and again, it will go through and tell you how to make suggestions on how we need to refine this ad, how we need to fix this ad to get it to perform better. And it's, you know, this is an ad where it's saying seniority is implied, not enforced. So we're not using the right verbiage, is basically what it's coming down to. We're not using the right copy. We're not using the right keywords to attract the type of candidates that we're wanting to attract. And that explains why we're getting a lot of unqualified candidates. And so case in point here, the title and the opening is just too broad. So it's not, it's just too vague with the words that we've used for our ad. And so with that, it's going to make so many suggestions. It's going to tell you what results. And then it's going to say, would you like to do a tighter, like ATS optimized ad? So what we're going to just ask Copilot to do is please rewrite the ad using ATS format and keywords to attract the right candidates. You will notice if I typically say please and thank you, and I just can't get out of the habit. I know I don't have to, guys, so sorry about that.
You're not alone.
But I have a very polite relationship with Copilot. So.
And maybe a little bit of inside baseball. What's ATS?
An applicant tracking system. So a lot of times they'll ask you that for, a lot of times they'll ask you for that format. That's a little bit of a cleaner format in terms of just the formatting. A lot of times that's what Indeed is wanting to see, just a very clear formatting on it. A lot of people, we do not use an applicant tracking system, but I prefer that format. But I know a lot of companies are using that for hiring. So, but this is going to give you the new ad in terms of what it looks like. And so before, the job title was just systems administrator, and then it said something cutesy. And so now it says senior systems administrator based on what we're looking to hire. And they have put in this important location section. So this is hopefully going to grab the attention of people who are applying who live in Texas, because we're looking for people here in Atlanta. And so it's going to go through, and it has broken down everything into a very clear, concise format versus just being very wordy and maybe not saying the right words either. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, just a couple observations that jump out to me. If you scroll up a little bit, like, I mean, it says like in office and coming Georgia like 3 times in like the very first 30 words, right? Which is,
Yeah.
you know, for getting people out of state, it's kind of like repetition is probably what key theme that's jumping out here, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, some of the keywords, you know, like senior is reiterated a couple times, seasoned, right? So it's just it is kind of keying in on, hey, the words matter, and you've got to like repeat them if they're super important or they're part of your pain point. And then you've got to, if you're, you know, like I think the big struggle you were saying on this particular job was that you were getting too many junior candidates with not enough experience. And so, you know, it's senior, it's not on the job training. And in this job, and I liked the thing at the bottom, this job is not right for you if we should look at that, like go like dig in on that. So
Yes. Let's see. Yes, and so this has been the new addition to the job ads of late, of the last few weeks. Of one of the big things, it's the big feedback that I've been getting when I'm analyzing these ads is it's really suggesting that we need to have a "this is not a good fit for you" section, and so that's a new addition to a lot of the job ads. And I'm sure that if you're reading through that and you're an applicant, that you know, I would say that that would probably catch your attention, because that's not how most job ads are necessarily worded. I don't think they're normally speaking in that way and trying to disqualify people before they even apply. So, okay, so we're going to go back up, and looking at my notes, I think I covered everything with how to improve an existing job ad. I just do want to scroll down at the bottom. This should let you know, as you see here, you know, it's done the whole, it's run the ad, which can then be copy and pasted into whatever platform you're using or your own website. It always is going to have suggestions on how you can further refine. So you can really go very deep on improving anything. So it'll make other suggestions. Would you like to do a questionnaire? And actually, we are going to do that. And then, you know, it keeps asking you questions so that you can further qualify and further improve and refine the ad. One of the things that I've been doing, and again, this is kind of that back to that first problem of getting too many, you know, hopefully revising the ad is going to help. But we also like to normally ask a couple of qualifying questions. So when applicants are applying, you know, it gives us a better insight. For one, are they going to take the time to answer the questions? And two, for me, as someone who's reviewing hundreds and hundreds of resumes a week, it will let me know, okay, I have a good idea of whether they're qualified or not. So I'm just going to ask ChatGPT I keep saying ChatGPT, sorry guys. I'm going to ask Copilot how to, you know, to create a few qualifying questions for me, okay? Let's see what questions it gives me. So it's giving me a question about the location as a qualifying question. Again, it's asking about, and I prefer to, like with some platforms within, like for Indeed, for example, I cannot include the multiple choice kind of question. I need open-ended questions. And so I will go back and say, let's make these open-ended questions that further qualify their technical skill. I feel like we've asked the location plenty of times, so we've reiterated that a lot. And let's see.
So I'm clear. So you're saying that it gave these answers, or gave this set of questions, but it actually proposed them as kind of like multiple choice questions. And when we use Indeed to promote jobs, gather the resume, and then do a little bit of lightweight pre-screening, and
Yes.
you can't use that format of question on the Indeed platform.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And so, this gives you a different way to, and this is this is what gives a great example of how we're using it now to qualify. But the question is, describe a recent complex systems issue you were primarily responsible for. And it's telling them what to include with that. And so the candidate then can go in and type their response. And so what I love is that Copilot has been giving me suggestions now, because I am not technical at all, but I am hiring for very technical roles. And so just in that initial screening, I kind of know, okay, this person knows what they're, somewhat knows what they're talking about, and it's giving me red flags. And I love the red flag section. This has become my new favorite, because it's giving me words and things to look out for, that's basically signaling to me this person really might not be as qualified as what you think they might be. So love the screening questions. Those have been very, very helpful. And again, you can play around with it. It could be as many questions as you want, obviously applicable to your industry. And whatever you think would be most important to you to help you further qualify the candidate prior to ever spending any more time with them on a phone call or anything of that nature.
Hey, Shelly, just maybe a follow-on question. So
Sure.
Our main challenge is getting too many resumes that are off the mark.
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
so explain to our audience a bit, maybe, like, how do you think about the trade-offs between adding questions to the application process versus like what that's going to do to your response rate? Because I mean, it's kind of like if somebody's not going to actually bother to respond, it kind of is like a red flag in and of itself if they can't answer a couple basic questions. But how do we think about that? And does it really cut down on the number of responses you get and increase the quality if you add these sort of follow-up response questions?
It does, and it doesn't unless you set something like in particular in a panel, like for Indeed, there's a knockout question that you could create. So if they say they have 4 years of experience and my knockout is 5, it automatically kind of puts them over into a rejected section for me to review. But I think to your point, if you will not take the time to answer, because a lot of these platforms give candidates the ability to be able to mass apply. So they can click one button and their resume can go out to 25 companies. They have no idea who SnapTech is. They're not really necessarily wanting to join our company. They're just wanting to get a job, which I respect. But for us, to me, it signals if you'll take the time to answer the question, it matters to you, for one. And then two, based on what that answer might be, that might help me further qualify whether it would be, whether it makes sense to move them forward in the process.
Great. So candidates are using the mass apply feature like crazy. And one thing you just have to do as a recruiter is you've got to like put roadblocks up against that, because you basically don't, unless you're, I don't know, maybe Best Buy or something, you don't want to just take applicants from anywhere, right? I mean, you want people who are intentionally digesting the job description and filling it out and giving you some interesting perspective on their background.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the huge things. And just as an example, and I'm going to show in a little bit, we'll talk about this ad a little bit more, but for a help desk role for us, that's a very popular, most people have heard the term help desk or a help desk technician. And for example, a few weeks ago, before I started modifying that ad, in one day, I had 60 applicants and I moved through 5 candidates. So 55 of those applications that came through were not qualified through Indeed. So I think the big thing is anything we can do to kind of screen it out and make sure that we don't want to miss a great candidate either. Just because you might get 100 resumes, but you don't want to miss a good one because you've got so many to go through. At least, I think that's really hugely important. So are we good to move on to the next section?
Yeah.
Okay. Next demo. So let's say that you don't have a job ad written yet. And so I wanted to walk through, a lot of times you may get some information from whoever is going to be the hiring manager, or maybe you've created it yourself, where you might have a list of job responsibilities. you might have a list of kind of skill requirements in terms of what you're looking for, but you need the ad to be written. And I know that, sometimes you can sit down and you can spend a significant amount of time writing an ad from scratch. And so I want to show you how just to, be able to write an effective job ad using Copilot. And for this example, I am going to, this was an accounting assistant role we hired a few years ago. And so that's what the prompt is, that using this information, write a job ad for an accounting assistant. And I keep the format Indeed friendly, because I know that's where, I would be posting the job ad. If you're using a different platform, tell Copilot that. And then I'll copy and paste in the responsibilities and skills, and we will create this job ad in literally a matter of minutes. Okay, so I've pasted it out. Let's see what magic Copilot gives us. Okay, so it has taken the responsibilities and everything that I have put in. It has the responsibilities, it's going to have the skills, but they've also taken that information and written a very nice opening paragraph for the job ad. And they've also been sure to include that it's in office, because again, for us, this was an in-office role that we were hiring for. And so it really is going to give you a great job ad. The one thing that's missing from this job ad, and I wanted to show you that I think is really neat, is if you're using Copilot within your organization, like we are, because it knows SnapTech, I want there to be an about section at the end of this resume, at the end of this job ad, that's going to tell people a little bit about SnapTech. So I'm just going to ask it to create an about section. And I'm going to ask it to do it based off of our website so that it can this way it will pull information from our website in terms of creating an about content. So we're going to ask it to do that. Okay, so it wrote an about section. If I wanted to revise that, if it was too wordy, which it probably is in my opinion, but I could revise that. But now I want the full ad. So I want it to be able to give us the full ad. Write the full job ad and include the about section. And then from a formatting standpoint, it's going to kick out everything to me in this format that's where it would be literally a copy and paste if I was satisfied with this end result. If you were to not like the formatting on it, you can ask it to remove the lines, you can ask it to remove bullet points, you can get as specific and as detailed as you would like with any of that. But again, you have a job ad ready to go. I think we did that in about 4 or 5 minutes at most. So if you're having to create job ads for your company, this is a great tool and resource to be able to save you some time with that.
And did it tell us a little bit about what do you mean by, for those of us who aren't day to day in the recruiting gig, mm-hmm. What do you mean by like Indeed formatted, and did it do a good job of that? Like, you know,
it did in terms of Indeed. Usually it needs to be more condensed for Indeed. Sometimes the line breaks do not work great on Indeed, or the formatting, or sometimes I don't really love the bullet points, or the paragraph is too long. In this case, this is too long of a paragraph for me. I would have them split it, is how I would typically go back in. And so, but the Indeed formatting is I mean, sometimes you just copy and paste it and the formatting doesn't look great. So I try to have it as linear as possible.
Okay. All right. So it's doing a decent job, but you still might need to do a little bit of massaging.
Yes,
Okay.
like so once I usually copy and paste it into Indeed, I'll have to go in and maybe add in some line breaks here or there that didn't come through when I pasted it. But aside from that, it's usually pretty click and go. So okay. Do you have anything else on this section?
Well, maybe just let's address one of the questions. I want to invite everybody to ask questions, but Danya asks, I've used AI for the job description in my role, and it's too niche, and then and then AI is unable to assist me with recruiting candidates that will fit the job description. I mean, do you ever find that Copilot or any of the AI tools is like can't help with the problem, or do you ever run into that?
I think the problem usually lies with me in terms of I'm not giving it the prompts, and that's why kind of in the beginning I said it's for me it's an evolving thing in terms of how do I improve how I give instructions, I guess would be a better thing. So the better I can, I guess, articulate my point and try to get that across. And I mean, and sometimes I'll just say that's horrible, let's do it again. And I don't know. I talk to it like I'm talking to somebody, but so
Yeah.
I do think the better you can be with your instructions. And if something is, is too niche, then I would say that what would be a step back from that and try to play around with some of the verbiage, just to better get the result that you're looking for. Definitely, you want to review everything. Let me say that with anything that any AI tool is giving you, you absolutely have to review it. I know sometimes when I'm talking, it thinks I'm saying Snapchat, not Snapchat because of my Southern accent. So I'm like, you have to like go through and like really review it. And the more I think finicky you can be with it and the more instruction you can provide, then the better result you'll get.
Yeah, it's Copilot, not autopilot. So you have to be aware of hallucinations as a problem. Just, sometimes these things can go off the rails and they have a different idea about what you were looking for.
Yes.
And if you just copy paste, you can make a big mistake. And then there's all sorts of little nuances around pronunciation and spelling errors that occur or misinterpretations. So you got to really quality control the output for sure.
100%. And again, I think the better, and it's something I'm still learning on a daily basis, I think the better instructions and the better I can communicate with it. And clearly, I think get in my head what I'm trying to communicate across to Copilot, the happier I am with the result that I'm getting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think on a lot of the AI events we host, I mean, we talk about it in terms of context. You've got to feed it. If you want it to like really nail what you're actually looking for in the job, and you want it to come with your voice, you have to give it that context. So the exercise you just did of pointing Copilot to the company website automatically got kind of like the company's voice into the ad, right? So that's context. And then, of course, you started with a really solid list of requirements and job duties. I mean, you always need to start with that raw material, whether the copywriting is good or not, doesn't really matter. You need to have your facts straight. Like, what exactly is this person going to be doing in the job? And what are your minimum requirements? And then Copilot will, or ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using, will embellish it even further. But you got to give it a good starting point, which is that context.
Absolutely. And I mean, I will say this with anything, to your point with tone, sometimes things may come across as too rigid and not, I feel like I'm a friendly person. So if I was writing something or writing an email or sending something to someone, Copilot might not write it in the way that I would say it or in the tone that I want to convey the message. And so you can provide instructions on, let's change this to a softer, friendlier tone or a more professional tone for whatever you're trying to achieve with it. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's go through just creating some interview questions. This is just going to be about this goes back to making better decisions earlier. We talked about that being a problem. Sometimes you and I interview so many people, 20 people a week, and a lot of times I'll ask a question and I'll hear people say, well, I've never been asked that before. And I take that as such a compliment, because I do think that when people are interviewing, there's a kind of a set standard questions that every interviewer asks. What's the biggest mistake you've made? What's your biggest accomplishment? I mean, I don't know, what do you want to be in the future? So, and none of those are bad questions, but I think if you're really trying to dig down and make sure that someone's going to be a great fit for your organization, the better that you can, the better interview questions you can have at your disposal, and you don't have to use all of them, I think the better result you'll end up getting. And that's definitely been the case. I implemented this, as I talked about, with the help desk position for us. I was still, even though a lot of candidates were not even making it through to a phone call to me, I was hopping on a screening call, and I'm not technical. And so I would ask questions, and just the result that I was moving people through who were still not technical enough, and with a couple of those candidates. And so I wanted to try to see how I could improve the process to save myself time, to save the next interviewer time as well. And so I have been working with Copilot to create some questions that help me qualify whether someone is actually as technical as they say they are. So let's walk through that example real quick. And this would apply to, whatever type of role you might be hiring for within your organization. Let's see. So for this one, I am going to use, we're going to go through two different examples. This first one, this prompt is basically I am telling Copilot about the results I've been getting. I received 50 applications. I moved through 5 people. Most have IT experience, but it's maybe a home lab, or maybe it's been internal. It's just not the right fit for the organization. And so I'm wanting to have 4 or 5 screening questions that are going to help me determine someone's technical ability. And I have also included, please tell me what to look for and give me some red flags, because I'm not technical, so I want to be able to know what to listen for when I'm asking some of these questions. So let's use this as an example. Okay, and then I'm going to include if I can find it. Okay, I like to include, but I want it to know what ad I'm running. So here's the job ad that I'm running. I'm running the help desk technician ad. Here's the problem that that's occurring here. And then what screening questions, based on what we say we want in this job ad, do I need to be asking applicants? So let's see what suggestions it gives me. Well, I'm glad it told me that the job ad is very clear, because that's the one it helped me write last 2 weeks ago. So
check your own work. Yeah.
Exactly. That's positive. And so these are just some questions. And again, I ask it for, 5, here are 5 screening questions that are just going to help me determine whether somebody is technical or not. And so interview question, walk me through a recent support ticket you personally handled from start to finish. And again, this is making them describe real work they've done, not big picture theory of I love to help people. I hear that so much, and I think it's wonderful, but that doesn't really necessarily technically qualify them, that they love to help people. And so it's going to tell me also what things to look for based on the ad. We use internally something called ConnectWise, which is how we handle our service tickets. So it's telling me to listen for how they troubleshooted. Also vague answers. And I get this vague answer a lot. I help people with issues or I help people with problems. And so it's just kind of telling me, okay, well, that's a little bit of a red flag, and maybe they have overinflated their resume to make it sound like they're a little bit more technical than they are. Another one of these, how many tickets do you handle in a busy day, and how do you prioritize them? And this is a new question, and it has been like gold the last week and a half. It's been wonderful because I can immediately tell that, you know, they really have never handled tickets in terms of helping our clients, you know, and helping clients like that. And so it tells me also a little bit about their pace of work. I mean, with our company, we're fast paced, it's busy. And so if you've, you know, just been working, you know, in a really slow work environment, it might be a challenge to join our company. You have to love the fast paced type thing. So I always like this. This is another one. Tell me how you supported a non-technical user who was frustrated? I mean, again, as someone who's non-technical, I cannot tell you how many times, like if you call in somewhere, you don't want someone to talk to you like you're a child. You don't want them to talk to you like you're a moron. And so, like for me, this is always so important in the screening aspect, is because I want to hear that they actually have the customer service and people skills. Like, how did you handle it? And like, I have literally had the answer, I tell people to chill out. And I was like, oh, okay. That's rough. That's not exactly how you would handle it. Chill out is not what you want to be telling anybody who's calling in with a technical issue. So this is just giving you some great examples. You know, again, in this section, it's saying, do they blame the user? Do they minimize the situation? Do they talk about how the user was maybe emotional? It's giving me a better feel for, are they really going to be a great help desk technician at SnapTech? So anyway. Answer that. Do you have any questions? Do you have any follow-up?
No, it's great. It's great. I mean, these are fantastic. I mean, what I love about this is it's not just giving you the questions, but it's giving you the red flags. Which kind of reveals why this is a great question. And on these, you've used them now in flight, and you've seen how valuable it is. But I mean, half the challenge when we're at the interview stage is how to prevent people from trying to fake you out. I mean, everybody's you know, nervous in an interview, and you know, the human instinct is to try to like mold yourself or mold your story or your narrative to what you think the other person's looking for. And these questions are kind of hard to hide. Like if you have no ability to articulate what a busy day looks like on a help desk from ticket flow, if you can't answer that question, you didn't fake us. You do not have any experience. In fact, if you can't, or you might have experience, but if you were so asleep at the switch, I mean, if you had no like self-reflection or knowledge about the volume and the busyness and being able to articulate that, you're probably not, you don't have good situational awareness. And we need in this job to be able to have not just empathy and good phone skills and that customer service ethic, but you also need to you need to be somewhat merciless in getting through all of the tasks that come at your way every day, because there's a lot of tickets to get closed. And so these questions are great because they you know, eliminate the ability to fake us out.
Well, and I really want people to think about it. You know, let's say if you were in accounting, or this was an accounting or finance job, you know, you could, again, upload that resume and you could have a better sense of whether the person that you're interviewing, they may say they have QuickBooks experience, but you might be able to use Copilot to craft a question to really let you know, have they opened QuickBooks before, or have they really used QuickBooks before? And to further qualify, you know, the candidate. Depending on, you know, any industry that you could think of, there are questions that you would want to ask to make sure you're getting that ideal candidate, you know, bringing that ideal person into your company. Also, I want you to think about it like this as well. If you have, and I know that we have a couple of team members, the second interview at our company is a technical interview. And so I know that we have, you know, one person in our organization who he often uploads the resume of the candidate that he's going to speak to for this technical interview, and he asks it to generate some technical questions based on where there might be something that he needs to figure out to determine if this person is technical enough and a right fit for the role. And so he does it per, per interview. He'll generate some interview questions using Copilot based off of, instead of uploading the job ad, he'll actually upload the person's resume as well. So there's a lot of different things and avenues and directions, I think, that you can go with all that too. Okay. The last thing that I talked about was just the administrative stuff. If you've been on the hiring side of things, it can be heavy on the administrative front. Here at SnapTech, we document everything internally. So when I interview somebody, I am creating an interview summary and I'm writing that down and I'm getting it in our notes so that the next person interviewing has a good picture, I think, and a good idea of what that candidate is really like, so that they kind of go into their interview with a little bit more information. And so I just wanted to touch on that real quick, and then I know we'll have time for a couple of questions at the end. And so the prompt that I'm going to use for this is very simple. This is what I've been using, is just to create an interview summary. Okay, so I'm going to ask it to create an interview summary that is clear, concise, easy to read. That's the format I want, because I've played around with this, and I want it to be easy for the next person to be able to see what I am putting in. Now, if you're thinking, because I am about to do voice dictation to give it my notes really quick, I'll just give it a quick summary on a fake candidate. If you are thinking, why do I not record? Because that has come up before. Why am I not recording the interview? For me personally, I'm talking to the candidate over the phone. I want them to be as relaxed as possible. So I don't want to have to communicate with them that I'm recording anything. I need them to be at ease. And the second part of that is that my opinion is heavily infused with the actual interview, because I am listening for a few things that are important to us as a company. So it's not just a black and white experiential kind of thing. So that is why I do the voice dictation, so that I can put my opinion in there, or share the story about what they're saying and add some context to it if need be. So I'm gonna wing this and just do a little voice dictation, because I wanted to show you how this feature works. I really like it for a variety of things within Copilot when you're using dictation, because I can just take my ideas and I can talk to it and it will spit them out in a very organized fashion, because sometimes I can be busy and all over the place. And this helps with so many different things, not just the interview summary, but from an admin standpoint, I was probably spending 10 minutes writing up an interview summary, and now this is usually done in about 2. So I hang up the phone, I speak, give it a little bit of information, and then when it gives me the interview summary, I'm going to paste that in our notes. Okay, so I'm going to do this really quick. Interview with John Smith for help desk technician. John's communication style was very friendly. He communicated well and with a lot of confidence. I think he would do very well speaking with our clients over the phone. From a tech skills standpoint, it seems like he possibly overinflated some of his skills that were on his resume, and the tools that he used and has had experience using that align with ours and what we use at SnapTech, he really did not have much experience with those at all. So I think he falls short on the tech skill side of things. I was really a little bit concerned with just John's preference for his pace of work and what he's experienced so far. A normal day, he said a busy day was if he had to fix a printer issue. So that is a much lower pace than what he would be having at SnapTech. And then from a future careers goals, he told me that he wants to have his own business doing photography one day, and he doesn't even want to be in IT. So I'm not sure that John is going to be the ideal candidate for help desk for us at this time. I am going to post these notes into the system for review. Okay. Okay, and so what I have normally used to spend probably 10 minutes trying to sum up one John Smith in our internal notes has now it's just a very clear and laid out. And so the next person interviewing can go into our internal notes. They can see that. And even if you are the sole person that is doing the recruiting, you're doing the hiring, there is no next interview, you are the one and only. I would say that this would still benefit you, especially in the fact that if you were interviewing 2 or 3 candidates, it'd be really nice for you to have, because a lot of times we forget what we talked about, or we forget what stood out about a candidate. And so you could really put that into your notes, put that here into an interview summary, save it for yourself so that you could really do an effective comparison. If you have 2 or 3 good quality candidates for a role, that helps you, that might help you make your final decision better.
So. This is awesome. So just there's the speed with which you can, just click and talk, and dictate out your impressions, and then what you get out is a very structured summary of the points you just made, and then copy paste, drop it into ConnectWise, and you're off to the races. And to me, this is like I try to articulate this all the time when we're talking about AI, where it used to take you 10 minutes and it took you 2. And it's like, do that over and over and over and over again. And it's just, that's what we're talking about in terms of massive productivity gains, is the 10-minute tasks that take 2 going forward.
And it really adds up, Ted, because, for example, last week I had 8 interviews in one day, and I had them back to back every 30 minutes, 8 in one day. And so that would have been, a good 80 to 90 minutes of my time. Before Copilot, I would be, typing all of these summaries up, and, now I probably spent 10 minutes to do the same thing, and it looks so much better than what I would have done if I was typing it up and writing it, in a very clear, concise way. So I love it.
Yeah, and then there's a question that came in from the audience. Danya wants to know, she said, if you recorded your interviews, could you just use the transcript and write out an interview summary that way?
Probably so. And I don't know what the technical, and you may know, Ted, to this. I don't know what the technical, I don't know if you have to let them know. You used to have to let people know they were being recorded. So
yeah, it's probably a whole webinar.
I think so. I'm not really sure. And
there's
again,
there's legal implications. There's legal implications. From a technical perspective, there's no question you could, as an interviewer, you could record telephone conversations. You could also decide to do them face-to-face via Teams. Mm-hmm. And all of those mediums give you the ability to record them, and then you can use AI to analyze and summarize the transcriptions. Mm-hmm. But I think your point about just kind of like having the right vibe is kind of pretty important, which is like, you don't want people on edge. And just so I got this correct, like our phone screening process, we're still using the phone. Like you're calling.
Yes, I use the phone. I'm not on video, so that's why this is a little weird for me today. I'm never on video, so I'm on phone, and it's a phone screen process, and it's really to determine the technical fit, but more importantly, a culture fit. Are they a company culture fit in terms of what we're looking for? Are they hungry? Are they humble? Are they smart? Do they have good people skills? So those things are all really important. And for me, I do need them to be, I want them to be their truest, most authentic self with me in that 15-minute phone call, 20-minute phone call. I want to have a better sense of who they really are. So I need them to be relaxed.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important point to kind of finish with, is to not get carried away with how this tech can kind of like stomp on the humanity of what we're trying to do in a lot of these processes. I mean, I think you showed numerous examples that can make you more productive as a recruiter. You also showed a ton of examples that show how you can have a better quality outcome because the actual like job description is better, the actual questions you actually ask on the phone are better. So it's not just speed and less time, it's actual quality too. But also, you have to make intentional decisions. Just because you can use Teams, just because you can record everything, just because you can transcribe everything, doesn't mean you want to go nuts with this stuff and go overboard.
I think that's true. Yeah, I think you want to be able to use your own, like I need to be able to use my own intuition and put that human touch and human perspective into the technology that I'm using. So I'm able to use the technology to leverage and improve my time and my efficiency, and it's helping me be better at the recruiting, but also we're not going to give over the decision making to that.
That's right. That's right. So I think we try to end on time here. It looks like we're maybe just like 1 minute over. But Shelly, thanks so much for providing all of these great real life use cases, demos of how we're using this tech day to day to find the best talent for SnapTech IT. Thanks everybody for participating. Thanks for joining in with your questions. If you, just to finish up real quick, 30 seconds here, if you want to have a conversation around how to go deeper and in a more structured way with AI in your organization, you want a roadmap, you want more innovation, you want to leverage this tech in your organization, go ahead and snap the QR code on the left to set up a one-on-one meeting with one of our AI experts. And then I want to tell you about the webinar we're doing in the front half of April, which is what's new with Copilot in 2026. Microsoft continues to innovate like crazy. New features are coming out literally every month. And so we're excited to catch you all up on it. We keep, I mean, it's a ton of stuff to keep up on, but that's our job. And so we'll be bringing you all that information in the next webinar. So you can go ahead and register for that session on the right. With that, thanks everybody for joining us for our March webinar. And Shelly, thanks a lot for sharing your insights. And
thanks for having me.
All right, take care, everybody.